Welcome to the EdTech Throwdown. Join us, Eric Geis and Nick Johnson, as we dive into today's best EdTech tools, tips, and practices. We do the research so you can teach your class. Remember to follow us on social media like Instagram, X, or Facebook by looking for the handle @EdTech Throwdown. Now please enjoy the show.
Welcome to the EdTech Throwdown. This is episode 197 called 10 Low-Tech Ways to Refocus Students. In this episode, we'll talk about 10 low-tech or no-tech ideas for brain breaks, mindful moments, whatever you want to call them. You'll learn about some cool ways to refocus students in your classroom. This is another episode you don't want to miss. Check it out.
Yo, Nick, how was your summer?
Summer's fantastic. We are officially back. We may have already said that we're back in a prior episode, but that could not have been true because it was a pre-record from at the end of last year as we were trying to plan ahead. I'm not even sure if that happened just because I don't remember. It's been so long. But yeah, man, it was a fantastic summer. How was yours?
Mine was pretty good. Spent a lot of time with my oldest son for Little League Baseball for the first half of the summer, and then, we had some time to, sit down as a family and spend some time for the last 3 weeks of the summer, which was good. So I got to hang out with my 3 boys, which I loved doing. And now we're back into school. I already had back to school night for all of them, and they're starting their fall sports, which we said that we were going to cut back, and we actually added a sport for each one of them. So it's kind of intense.
That's funny. What did you guys add for the fall?
So they were always doing travel soccer and then travel baseball.
Right.
But the travel baseball in the fall is very low key. So what we were going to do is maybe, just give them a fall off of baseball, but they wanted to do it, so we did it. And then intramural flag football. They've been asking to do it.
Wow.
They said, we'll do X, Y, and Z for the summer if you let us do flag football. They did it, the chore. They emptied the dishwasher every single day and packed their lunches for camp.
All right.
When they had their camps. So we allowed them to do flag football.
Sounds like a win-win. You didn't have to pack the lunches.
Yeah, but you want to ask me what my daily schedule is from...
Dude, I'm scared to ask. My daughter's in dance and soccer this year for the first time. And even that is a lot. So I can't imagine everything you just listed out.
Yeah. So it's fun.
Yeah.
I would much rather than be out, play sports, or go out in the woods, or do something like that than be on the iPad and TVs and all the screens, which kind of ties into today.
Segue time. That was perfect because, that's kind of what this is all about. And, our episode came from me and Guy sitting there on our opening PD days in an auditorium full of 400 or so teachers, as we do, kind of half paying attention, sort of whenever we feel like it's needed. And one thing did catch our attention, which was one of our vice principals introducing the district goals for the year, building goals. And one of them this year was, as he put it, part of the pendulum swinging the other direction, his words, not mine, away from technology. The idea being that we've been pushing one-to-one devices where in our school each kid has a Chromebook, or bring your own device where the kids can use their tablets or phones or whatever for so long that now this constant access to screens, like you just said, is a problem. One, because it's not good physically, for your eyes, it exhausts your brain. 2, because kids are not feeling as comfortable speaking to one another one-on-one, and learning super important skills like making eye contact and all of this stuff. So this got our attention for 1,000 reasons.
Yeah, I would also argue that mental health reasons
for sure
would also play a big part of this, because as much as we try to teach it, preach it, and push it out, social media tends to be a problem, especially for the high school age. There's
Right.
a lot of negativity and a lot of rumors and he said, she said type stuff. So, yeah, I'm agreeing with him for a lot of it. And to be honest with you, I could see how this is beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny because, way back when one-to-one started, this is like a decade for us now, and I think for a lot of schools too, but these are things everybody said from the beginning, like, should we really have kids looking at a screen all day, every day? We all kind of knew the answer was no. It was funny because now it's the first time I've actually heard an administrator, like, say it out loud. But yeah, totally, mental health, it's not good. And it makes me laugh because as a chemistry teacher, the kinds of stuff chemistry students have to do, it's just always hard on a computer screen. Like, even if it's a touch screen, my students just prefer paper. So I've stuck a lot to paper, even though all the tech we talk about, it's just what the students like. And so that's what I've done. Also, have you ever, as an adult doing your job, sat in front of a screen all day? It's hard. It's hard on your eyes. I mean, you do it in your office, right? It doesn't feel good when you're in there for a bunch of hours just looking at a screen and doing nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, one, I can't focus for that long. I need breaks in between
Right.
doing things. If I'm in a groove, I'll stay there and I'll suck it up and just work in that groove. But for the most part, I try not to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to see people. I want to talk, but I was born at a different time.
Right, but I think that's a benefit you and I have, is being born at a different time. But these kids today were not, right? So they've kind of grew up in this world. So maybe taking these breaks is something we have to teach them. They might not even know why they feel so, their brain feels so foggy. Maybe it's because they've looked at a screen for 10 out of the 12 hours they've been awake so far. So keeping all that in mind, even though, of course, we are an EdTech podcast, we're aware of this. So today's episode is about that. How do you give kids breaks? A lot of people call them brain breaks. Mindful moments was the sort of a version of this, at least maybe 5 years ago, whatever you want to call them, to get the students away from the screen, at least in some part, throughout the day, to help lift them out of that feeling, right? So that's sort of what we put together. If you want to do some Google searches on this, you'll find literally hundreds of ideas. So we just pulled in 10 of them for this episode that we thought were cool, new ones that I hadn't heard about before. And the idea, as always, is for you guys to listen in and see if maybe there's just one or two of them that appeal to you. So we're going to get into that after we pause to hear a word from the Teach Better Podcast Network.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcasts. Now let's get back to the episode.
All right, so we're back for our list of 10 low-tech or no-tech brain breaks. And do you care if I take the first one?
No, you take the first one, but these are just going to be brief descriptions of each thing. If you have any questions, you could ask us on social media or drop us an email or whatever you want to do. But they'll be in the show notes. You could take a look at them. I think they're pretty clear, and we should be able to get through this relatively quickly. But they're pretty amazing ideas. I think a lot of them would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, some of these are cool, and a lot of them are games. This first one actually is a game. I'm going to try to describe it, but if that's not working for you, you can head to TikTok or just Google a person whose account is Life of Steph. That's all one word, and Steph is Steph. Life of Steph. I'm assuming Steph's a teacher because on her TikTok account, she posted a video of herself playing this game with her students. And it looks super fun, easy, fast, no preparation at all. It is called Bingo Bongo Splat. It's a number game where the students try to guess the secret number that you, the teacher, have thought of. So picture this. You're the teacher in front of the classroom. You explain the rules, which I'll get into. And you begin officially by writing down a secret number. You only write it down so that you yourself don't forget. because there's going to be a lot of numbers flying around, and you don't want to forget the number that you want them to come up with. So let's just say that your secret number is 503. Okay, so I write down 503 so that I don't forget it. Can be as many digits as you want, and more might be better. You'll have to kind of judge. Maybe for younger grades, you can stick with like a 2-digit number, but let's say 503. Okay, so then the students take turns, so you'll just like go like in a circle or let them raise their hands, whatever you want to do, and a kid guesses a number. So if my number is 503, first student goes and they say 67. Okay, so then you record on the board, or Life of Steph does it on like an iPad screen that she's sharing with the class. She writes down 67, so everybody can see it. All the students can see it, so nobody doubles up on any numbers. And then next to 67, you write the words bingo, bongo, or splat. If you write bingo, it means that one of those digits was in the right place. In other words, matching my secret number. Since my number was 503 and the student guessed 67, none of the digits matched, right? There's no 6s, no 7s, and they're certainly not in the right spot. So I wouldn't write down bingo at all. You write the word bongo if a student guesses the correct digit but puts it in the wrong spot. That didn't happen here either, because 6 and 7 are not in my secret number, 503. And you write down splat if nothing matches. So on the board, I record 67 equals splat. The students now have a record that 6 and 7 are not in my secret number, and it goes to the next student. The next student says 500. So then I record 500 equals, now the 5 matches. So that's a bingo, right? And you continue this. There's this open record that's displayed on your board until finally the students guess the secret number as they kind of hone in on it. Life of Steph's kids were having a heck of a time with this. It looked like a blast, and it just seemed like a super fun way. Nobody's looking at their computer screen. They're just sort of thinking and working and playing together. No prep for you, essentially. Takes 5 minutes of time. Kids get to have some fun, and I just thought it was a cool game, and I've never seen it before. Have you ever heard of bingo, bongo, splat?
Never.
There you go.
Check out the video that's attached in the show notes. That will give you a greater picture of it. I know Nick tried to do the best that he could to explain it, but really if you watch that video, you'll understand it. All right, I'm going to go into word problem, battleship, connect four, tic-tac-toe. So what I do is on my projector, I'll put 2 different battleship boards, okay, and I divide the students into 2 groups, and as they come up with the answers, they get to tell me a coordinate, and I have the 2 battleship coordinates up there. So there's like 2 games being played. You could do this with 3 or 4. If I have a class of 24, I'll put them in teams of 6 and have 4 boards up there being displayed. I know where each of the ships are in each one of the games, but they don't. So as they come up, show me the correct answer. If I do it on the whiteboards, they show me the correct answer. They could come up and do that. You could do this as a introductory activity too. So anytime the kids get a match. So if I say, what is your favorite thing to do over the summer? They all write it on the whiteboard, and they're trying to match somebody else on their team without conferencing about it. Well, then I would tell them to go up and pick their coordinates or whatever it may be. You could do tic-tac-toe the same way. Just change the rules a little bit. So they could either choose to put an X or an O, whatever team they're on, or they can choose to erase. So really, it makes another level of the game. And then I also have a Connect 4 board, which I will also throw up on the overhead, and they could play Connect 4 the same way. So they'll go up and they'll just draw a red circle or a black circle, depending on what team they are and where they want to place that chip. But basically, you just get the kids moving. They have fun with it. They really, really enjoy it. You got to set some guidelines, some rules. Like, for example, I always make them come up one way and exit another way because we have the lab benches up front.
Right.
Or another rule I have is walk. If they don't walk, then I erase. And I get to choose, and usually it's the one that's going to inflict the most damage to their game. So there are some rules there that they have to follow, but they get very excited. Sometimes they miss it, and we just make a joke out of it, but it's all good. So that's Word Problem, Battleship, Connect 4, Tic-Tac-Toe, which counts as 1.
Yeah, that just makes me think, what I've seen every student play just themselves at some point, like every year since I've set foot in a school, and this doesn't include being a teacher, this includes being a student as well. So I don't know, almost 40 years of being in schools. Hangman. Every year. I've seen students play Hangman every single year towards the end of the year when there's downtime. They're done with their work. Maybe it's the day before summer break, so we're all just kind of hanging out after collecting textbooks or having a party. They start playing Hangman on the board. It's just a classic, and that kind of goes along with what you're saying. You cannot go wrong with that. It's always fun, and those games have that staying power for a reason. So it's a great one. Okay, I'll get into my next one here, our number 3, which actually does require a little bit of tech. This is a very cool website that you would have to visit in advance, so this takes a little bit of planning. The website is called Slow Reveal Graphs at slowrevealgraphs.com. This also takes a little bit more thought on the part of the students. So I don't know if this is necessarily a brain break, but I think it could be because these aren't all necessarily intense, right? It's just getting them doing something different. So you'll have to sort of pick and choose where you use this, but it was so neat, I had to share it. So first of all, what is a slow reveal graph? It's a graph, first of all, that is on a series of slides in a slide deck. So like Google Slides, PowerPoint, whatever. The first slide will have an image of the graph, but that graph has been stripped of all the information such as numbers, axes, labels, title of the graph. So if it's like a bar graph, you might just see the color-coded bars going vertically, but there's absolutely nothing else labeled. And you do that, good teacher move where you say to the kids, what do you notice? What do you wonder? And they start calling out ideas. The point of it being, it's supposed to teach math skills, math literacy. If you present a graph with no information, it's meaningless to people because at that beginning stage on slide 1, their guesses are either going to be completely wild guesses because they have almost no information at all, or they're not going to have anything to say at all because how am I supposed to know what this graph is about, teacher? There's no info there. Okay, so you establish that. Then you click forward to slide 2. And slide 2 adds in a little bit more information. Maybe the second slide, now it has the horizontal axis is labeled with quantities. So if it's a bar graph, you can see that this highest bar is labeled at 1,000. But the shortest bar is labeled at 50. Still, there's nothing else there, so you have some sense of what the quantities of these bars are, but still no labels of the axes. And you repeat that question. What new information did you guys just learn? What do you notice about the labels? How precise do you think these might be? Maybe it does have what those numbers are. Maybe it says 1,050, all the bars are labeled, but now there's a unit included as well. So calories. Okay, so now we know that 1,000 is 1,000 calories. What do you think this graph is about now? Kids are going to say maybe it's comparing different foods, whatever their ideas are. Then you go to the next slide, and there's more information. Maybe you get the title of the graph. So now the title comes in and says, Chipotle. So now they're thinking, okay, it's definitely food, and it's about the restaurant Chipotle. And it just goes on like that for 5 different slides until eventually in the last slide, all of the graph is revealed and the kids slowly got to talk through what the graph is about. To me, this is kind of like a way to trick them into actually paying attention to all of the things that have to be in a well-constructed graph. Because you could just show them a graph and you, the teacher, talk about all that. But how effective is that? Not very, at least for not all the kids. But if you slowly pull in one little element at a time, while they actually think about what they don't know in the absence of that information can be super, super powerful. So as a science teacher, I love this because that's what we deal with all the time is analyzing graphs. Kids are making graphs, and it's often a lot to get them to understand that. Plus, they're kind of fun. So that's why I thought it fit in this category of a brain break. So there you go, slowrevealgraphs.com. They have a huge database of these things for you to choose from.
So I love this one, and as you were describing it, it made me think of an app that I use every single day. All right, and the app is called Bandle, Bandle.
Yeah, dude, it's
right.
just like that.
And what Bandle does is it breaks down songs. It will first tell you a category and the date that it came out and how many YouTube views it has. And then after that, it will tell you, like, it will just play one basic instrument that's found in there, maybe a keyboard, and it will give like just one layer of the song, and then you can make a guess. If you're wrong, you keep going, and then you bring in a second instrument and a third until basically you have the whole song. And earlier you get it. It's kind of like my next one, like when everyone knows what Wordle is, I'm pretty sure at this point. When you get the Wordle word, it keeps track of when you got it, whether it was your first guess, first guess, or second try, or third try.
Right.
It does the same thing in Bandle. And they have free ones every day. And then you could also buy packages. I buy packages when we have parties, because especially in the wintertime, we have game parties and with other adults, and we just, play Bandle. So for Wordle, you guess words, and it will tell you kind of like your first one. When it says bingo, bongo, or whatever, it will light up a certain color if it's a letter that is in the word, or if it's in the correct position. I think it highlights green. I'm not really sure.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
All right. So for Wordle, you could play that on New York Times. I know New York Times is messing with their subscriptions. It used to be free. There were 5 or 6 games that used to be free. Now that there's certain ones that you need with a certain subscription. I'm not sure if that's one of them. But you can make your own Flippity, your own Wordle on flippity.net. So go there. They have a template. It's a Google Sheets template. It's very simple to use. All you'll do is put the word that you want in there, and it will have the whole template there. All you have to do is change the word. So check out flippity.net for their version of Wordle.
You can actually say Bandle is another cool idea for a brain break. Like, what's stopping you from doing that in class? You know what I'm saying?
I will put phone app Bandle underneath the slow reveals graphs.
Yeah, that's a great one. Okay, my next one, I don't know if there's a name for it. I called it Which Doesn't Belong, because that's exactly what this is. You would need some way to project these images. I use just like a simple Google slide or a PowerPoint slide. But on the slide go 4 different images. Ideally, they're not related to your content because you want it to be fun and actually feel like a break, at least not at first. So the one that we did a few days ago as a sample and that I then used in class was, let's see, I keep forgetting these things. Okay, it was a chocolate layer cake, chocolate chip cookies, a slice of, I think, blueberry pie, and vanilla ice cream. So the kids see pictures of these 4 things, and they have this one simple question at the top of the slide that says, which one does not belong? Give them a second to think, tell them to talk to those around them and try to agree on one to share. They start sharing out answers. The beautiful part is that these things have been chosen very specifically so that depending on how you look at it, you could come up with a reason where each one doesn't belong. Like ice cream is the only one that has to be served cold or frozen. The berry pie is the only one that's completely made of fruit. Chocolate chip cookies is the only one that you generally eat with your hands, and the layer cake is the only one that has layers. The rest don't have that. So it connects to things like different people's perspectives. Mostly it's just about taking a break and getting the kids looking at each other and speaking to one another face to face. An extension to this that I found pretty cool was I then made other versions of that same thing they did later, but that were content specific. So I had one where I put different atoms in each corner. So there's 4 different atomic symbols listed out with the same theme. So there could have been a reason that you would have chosen each one of the 4 as not belonging. Like 3 of them started with the letter C. I think had cobalt, carbon, and chlorine, and then one of them didn't start with the letter C. And it got more complex as they went. And even further extension, which I will do in a couple days, is to have the kids design their own one of those that is content specific, and then they present it. So maybe they start the class that way. The true brain break is really just the first one that you did, right? It's the silly one with pictures of food on it, but then that ties into the content themed ones that come later. Just thought it was a cool thing and a nice way to, take a pause or begin your class even if you wanted something unique.
Yeah, I like that one. I saw it displayed up on your board earlier this week, and you asked me which one doesn't belong, and I said the double-layered chocolate cake. And you were like, why? And I was like, I wouldn't eat it. It's the only one I wouldn't eat. But there's no right or wrong answers, very low pressure, so awesome start there. I'm going to go to the next one, which I would be terrible at, regardless whether it's upside down or right side up. But I think it could be hilarious. Teacher is going to give students 30 seconds to doodle something. I'm going to change it a little bit as to what it is on the paper. I would just bring 1 student up or 2 students up, or split them into teams of 3 teams or something like that. I would give them all the same word, have them draw the picture, but they have to draw it upside down, and then I would have their classmates guess, and then whichever team guesses first. So this is not only going to give them a way of looking at their own teammates' work, but they could also look at the other ones, and hopefully within the 3 they could come up with whatever that is. I think it's just a quick and funny reset. I just know that whatever I drew, if I was the drawer, would be totally terrible.
See, that's what I would do too. I like the idea of having kids like come up to do it almost in front of everybody else, because then you get kind of an element of humor. Everybody can be laughing and making a friendly joke, let's just say, as long as it's the right kid and you kind of know they'd be comfortable with that. But yeah, that's a nice, fun, easy one. And we can do the last couple of these a little bit faster, I think. Although this next one might be the last one that takes some explanation. So this is called Story Tag, which we've talked about on this show, many different websites and stuff where you can do a version of this, okay? But this version is, again, the low-tech, no prep version that you can do as a brain break. But I think most people have seen this before. It's a silly story that you work on together. And what I like about it is there's so many ways to do it and make it different. So here's one version. You choose a student to start, and they say one sentence as like the starter to the story, but just one sentence. And then you go to the next kid, and they say a different sentence that builds off of that. And then the next kid, and then the next kid. And the goofier and sillier, the better, which is the whole point. And that's Story Tag. There's tons of add-ons to that, like the student who goes first, they tag the student who goes next. You could have them physically tag, right? So they have to actually get up and like actually tag someone else's desk to bring in some movement to it, right? Tons of different variety there. A different option along the same line is do that same thing, but with one word at a time. Instead of one full sentence, the first student says the. They tag somebody else, that student says dog. They tag somebody else, that student says eats, right? And it goes on from there, with the exact same theme. And as I was coming up with these different options, my brain just kept going with like all sorts of different spins on this. Maybe for higher grades, you got to tell a story, but only with questions. So each student, yes, has to say a sentence, but that sentence has to be a question. The first student could say, "Where did the dog go?" And the next student says, "I'm not sure. Should we go look for him?" And that's going to be more or less challenging depending whoever just said the last thing. But again, it could be funny, it can be light. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't matter. And in fact, that's the point, because you just want to get their brains off of whatever's happening in class and away from their eyes, away from that screen. So story tag, a classic.
So the next one is something that I know as I'm going on a picnic, but I guess there's other versions of this, like island packing list or something like that. There are a couple different names that I saw, but I'm going on a picnic. The teacher, or if you want to have like a student develop this rule, but you have to develop a rule. It's a secret rule. It's like a hidden category. But basically, students are going to try to guess what the rule is by guessing certain things that are allowed to go on the picnic. So if I'm the teacher and my rule is things that start with B, the first student says, I'm going to bring candy on my picnic. And I'm going to be like, no, you're not. You're not bringing candy. It's not included. It's not on the list. Whatever you want to do. And then the next kid's like, I'm going to bring bread. And I'm like, yeah, you are. You're going to bring that bread. I hope it's whole wheat. Maybe, it's got some seeds in there, something like that. The next kid, I'm going to bring drinks. Nope, you're not. Next kid goes, but I'm going to bring banana pudding. I go, yes, you are, and it's going to be delicious. And after a while, they'll start picking up on the fact that, maybe they're going to guess solids or something that is not a liquid can be on there, and I'm going to be like, no. Or they could guess, hey, these are things that start with B, and I'm going to be like, that's it, you got it, there you go. And we could keep track of how many guesses it takes for them to get the answer. I could pit different classes against each other. First period got it in 3. You guys needed 17. What is going on with you guys? Let's go. Gotta pick it up. So that is called I'm Going on a Picnic.
Yep, that's a good one. This next one I like. I'm not sure I would do it. I don't know if it's like a high school thing. I just can't see my students enjoying this. But maybe, I don't know, sometimes those are the best things. It's called Mirror Game. And maybe I'll just take care of the last 2. You good with that? We ready to wind this thing down?
Yeah,
All
do
right.
it.
All right, so Mirror Game, they're also very fast and easy. Okay, so Mirror Game is you got to put students in pairs. They stand up, go to their own part of the room. They face each other. And one of the students makes slow movements while the other person mirrors that exactly. This is actually, I think where I read this, it's supposed to be a mindfulness thing. The room should be quiet. The kids might, be chuckling and laughing at the beginning because it's going to be a little awkward. But it gets that, eye contact. That's one of the things we're trying to bring back and teach them how to do. And it's supposed to be quiet and calm, though, the slow movements. It can be silly with it, but as long as the one is trying to mirror the other, you do it for 30 seconds, and then you tell everybody to switch roles and do it again. So literally no screens, no prep, and the whole thing is over, which is very similar to the final one we're going to talk about today, which is reverse Simon Says. I like anything that takes a game that I know, but then sort of flips it to something new and unique, which is the point of this. It's supposed to help trigger the kid's brain back into a state of focus because of how different, that switch in the normal set of rules you expect. So it's the same rules as Simon Says, but it's if you don't hear Simon Says, that's when you should do the action. So you're going to get laughter because kids are going to mess it up until they get the hang of it. And like I said, it just sort of flips that switch for their brains to get back in focus mode. And I think we'd be crazy if we didn't say at some point in here, if none of these work for you, just get up, walk outside, and take a quick stroll around the courtyard or whatever you have, because you can't ever go wrong with that. And that is our list of officially 10-ish. I know we added in a couple extra ones there, 10 low-tech or no-tech ways to refocus students. As always, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the EdTech Throwdown. Do us a couple of favors. Subscribe to our podcast on any major podcast catcher such as Apple, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and Stitcher. Go over to YouTube, search the EdTech Throwdown, subscribe to the channel. You can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The show's handle is EdTech Throwdown. You can connect with Geis at GeisGotTech, Nick at NickGotTech. You can write us an Apple Podcast review. You can tell your friends about www.edtechthrowdown.com. And lastly, go over and check out our friends over at the Teach Better Podcast Network, a network that we are so proudly involved with. Until next time, remember, go try some EdTech because we will do the research so you can teach your class.